spend about an hour together. We'll spend about 20-25 minutes on math and then 20-25 minutes on reading ELA. Halfway through, we'll take a 5-minute break in case you need to get something to drink, go to the restroom. And if any time you need to step away, you can just put a comment in the chat and let me know that you need to step away for a moment. All right, so I will go ahead and get started. We got Joshua and Khadijah with us today, and you all have worked together before, I think during the fractions boot camp way back in December. So I'm glad I get to work with y'all together again. Okay, so we will do our warm-up, math, break, language arts, and then if you have any questions about anything you learned this week or last week, we can talk about it together. So as our warm-up, I know both your names, but I want to know what's your favorite cartoon and what's something that made you laugh this weekend, last week. You can type it in the chat or you can just come off mute and tell me. Joshua doesn't have a favorite cartoon. Khadijah doesn't know either. Okay, that's all right.
Only my brother knows it. My brother has a favorite show. It's an anime that he likes. I just make fun. I make fun of him because I think that it looks like Trolls.
Oh, like Trolls. Okay.
He's 18.
Oh, well, you're never too old for cartoons. I love cartoons.
No, he watches Attack on Titan, and it looks. And I'm telling him that he's basically watching anime Trolls.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Joshua. And I see we had one other person who typed in the chat. See, Morgan Poole. Morgan, is that your name or your parents' name? She shared she likes Cat Dog. Ooh, that's an old cartoon. I used to watch that when I was a kid. So I know that's a real old cartoon. All right, and the second question. Okay, Morgan, that's your name. Perfect. All right. Did anything make you laugh at school last week or this weekend with your friends and family? I know something made me laugh last week. With my kids at school, we played the quiet game on Friday, and they all tried to make me laugh, so I lost, and I lost the game. So that was funny. Anyone else have anything they wanted to share before we jump into the math portion? Joshua raised his hand. All right. Joshua, what's that? What do you want to share?
I have spring break this week.
Oh, you have spring break this week, so that's nice. Awesome.
But for some reason, I took the day off on Monday too.
Okay, that's good. Good. Awesome. Okay. Well, I will let us go ahead and jump into the math portion. Let me clear off the screen, make sure you can see everything clearly. Okay, so for the math portion, we have people with different skill levels, different grade levels. Some people really don't like math. So in just a moment, I'm going to share some problems, some that are a little easier, some that are a little harder. With any problem, I want you to take your time, write things down. If you can, draw a picture, and then you can come off mute or comment in the chat to ask for help and volunteer to give help, give some advice to the people who are on the call. We're all just going to work together this Sunday to help us prepare for the end of year tests that are coming around in a couple weeks. All right. Okay, so we have 3 math problems. They're kind of similar, either dealing with addition or subtraction, but it's testing something you may see in 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade. And if you haven't seen this yet, still try your best to solve it. So I'm going to stop talking, and give everyone a minute to work on it. And when you're done, you can comment in the chat and let me know if you're done. I'm going to put myself on mute and let y'all work. All right, I see Joshua raised his hand. Joshua, what would you like to share? What did you get?
So for the first one, I got 100.
100. All right. Did you get to the second problem?
Yeah, I think it's 43, so it's positive.
Positive. All right. And did you make it to the 8th grade problem?
Yeah, I don't really get it, but all I know is that at the answer, they both equal 16.
Okay, so you know they both equal 16. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Joshua. I'm going to give everyone maybe 30 more seconds to see how far you can get before we start talking through the answers that Joshua shared with us. Thank you, Josh. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding some notes to the board. Feel free to take down as few or as many notes as will help you. So the first problem is for 6th graders. It is 3-digit subtraction without borrowing. So you may have noticed you didn't have to borrow to solve it. As usual, start with your ones place and your tens and your hundreds. And we are left with 5 minus 5, that's 0. 4 minus 2, that's 2. And 4 minus 3 is 1. Now, Joshua, did you say you got 100 or 120? And you can type in the chat or comment.
Yeah, I said I got 120.
120. Just double checking my work with you. All right. And when it comes to problems like this, try and do it in your head before you do it on paper and pencil, or before you double check with the calculator, just to stretch yourself and see how quickly you can do it in your head. All right, up next, this is for 7th graders. It's involving a little bit of addition, technically a little bit of subtraction because we're dealing with negative numbers, and it's asking, is -1 plus 44 positive or negative? Joshua said he got 43, and he knows that 43 was a positive number. So I'd agree. I'd say this is positive. Sometimes it can get a little tricky. We can forget that there's a negative sign out front. If you're ever in doubt, you can write yourself a quick number line. Remember, we're starting with -1, 0. Whenever we're doing addition, and there was an addition symbol in there that I covered up. So here is the addition symbol right here. Addition means we're moving to the right on our number line. We are moving to the right 44 spaces. So moving to the right, let me do a different color. To the right 1 space, that's +1. And we have 43 left over. So we would end at positive 43. That can always help you keep track of which direction you're going on your number line and what the sign of the answer is. That one was positive. And this one was a problem. It's asking which property of addition is shown. All right, now that's kind of a challenge. Who can share some properties of addition or anything you've heard about properties of addition? You can type in the chat, raise your hand, or come off mute to share. And as a hint, I'm going to start typing some words on the board that may or may not look familiar. So I typed associative and commutative. Has anyone heard of those words before? You can raise your hand if they sound familiar, even if you're not 100% sure of what they mean. Associative, commutative. All right, so I guess it's a new topic for everyone on the call. All right, so I'm gonna clear off my screen just a little bit so we have more room to work. Give me one moment. I'm gonna add extra little sheet of paper to clear things up. Okay, so I mentioned the term associative. This means when we are adding up more than 2 numbers, it doesn't matter which numbers we add up first. So if I do 2 plus 3 plus 5, it's the same as doing 5 plus 3 plus 2. The order doesn't matter. And you determine the order by the parentheses. So it doesn't matter where you put your parentheses when you're doing addition. So you can do it 2 plus 3 plus 5 and do the 2 and the 3 first, like this. Or you can do 5 plus 3 plus 2 and add the 5 and the 3 together first. So Joshua solved it and he said both sides of this problem over here, the original problem, equaled 16. So let's see. If we do 3 plus 7, that's 10. And then we add on a 6, that gives us 16. And if we do 6 plus 3 first, that's 9. And then add on a 7, that still gives us 16. So this property is called associative. It doesn't matter which 2 numbers associate with one another or are together grouped with one another when doing addition. We'll get the same answer. 3 and 7 can associate together, or 6 and 3 can associate together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, give you maybe 10 seconds in case you want to jot anything down before we move on to the next group of problems. All right, clear off my drawings and go on to the next slide. All right, so here instead of doing addition, We're dealing with multiplication and division problems for 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. So I'm going to stop talking and try and solve as many as you can, and then we'll talk about them together as a group. And welcome, Nazi. I see that you joined us. I'm glad you could make it today. The cameras are off for everyone, but Nazi, if you have any questions, you can comment in the chat or come off mute. We're just going to take a couple minutes to work on these problems independently, and then we'll talk about them together. Okay, I see Joshua raised his hand. What's up, Joshua?
Oh, so the only thing I get is the 8th grade one because 5, 10 lower terms is 1/2.
All right, thank you, thank you. So you got the hardest problem. Well, they said it was the hardest. It's for 8th graders. All right. Take a little bit more time and see if you can figure out the ones for 6th graders and 7th graders. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some hints on the board in case you want a little bit of direction. So if you weren't able to get the answer the first time around, I added some hints. Let's try the problem again. All right, Joshua, were the hints helpful? Did you figure out another problem? And I think you're on mute, Joshua. I see you raised your hand.
So I think this. I don't know if it's 6/1. I don't know if it's 1/4 times 2, but if it is, then it would be. I don't know, but I also think that it's 9/4.
You think it's 9/4? Which one?
Yeah.
The sixth grade problem?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good guess. Good guess. I'm going to give everyone about 10 more seconds before I give you the answers. Thank you, Joshua. All right, so we will start with the sixth grade problem. It was 1/4 to the second power. This is dealing with exponents. You may not have seen it yet, or your teacher may have went through it really quickly the first time you saw it. Exponents are also known as repeated multiplication. So multiplying something over and over and over. All right, so the tiny number up in the corner that I circled in red tells me how many times I need to multiply. And the bigger number inside the parentheses tells me what I'm multiplying. So I am going to multiply 1/4 twice. I'm going to multiply it by itself. We're doing multiplication, and you see 1/4 twice. Here's the first time and the second time. So with that hint, can anyone tell me what 1/4 times 1/4 is? You can come off mute or type in the chat.
I think it's 1/16.
Perfect. 1/16. We multiply our numerators, 1 times 1, and then our denominators, 4 times 4. 1/16. Perfect, perfect. And I see someone typed in the chat. Let me see. That is, oh, he's adding comma. Perfect. All right. Now for the next problem for seventh graders, they said, what is the multiplicative inverse of 9/8? That's a very fancy way of saying, what's the reverse operation or the opposite, okay? So the opposite of 9/8 is 8/9, okay? Because if we were to multiply these two terms by each other, it would simplify to 1. So it's the inverse or the opposite. 9 times 8, who can tell me what 9 times 8 is? Anyone? I think it's 72. And then 8 times 9. See someone put something in the chat. Yes, thank you, Khadijah. Thank you for checking my work. Sometimes I forget my times tables. And then we have 8 times 9, which is also 72. So this simplifies just to 1. So whenever you see this term, don't let the fancy words confuse you. Just figure out the opposite or inverse of that fraction. All right. And then here for the last problem for 8th graders, this actually seems like the easiest problem. Write 5/10 in lowest terms. That means to just simplify. To divide by the GCF, or the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor between 5 and 10 is 5. 5/10. We divide by 5 on the top, divide by 5 on the bottom. We're left with 1/2, so 1/2. All right, any questions so far? So we did 3 different levels of problems that had to do with either multiplication or division. Take about 10 seconds to jot down anything that was new. All right, and now I'll move on to our last math problem before our break, okay? I'm going to share my screen. So here is a word problem that I want everyone to try, whether you're in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade. I'm going to stop talking so you can think about it. Then we'll work on it together and take a break.
I have the answer.
All right, Joshua, what did you get?
So, Kyle made 9, and I think Alex made 18.
Okay, I think Kyle made 9, Alex made 18. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Joshua. I'm going to give everyone a couple more seconds to think about it before we talk about it as a group. Thank you, Joshua. All right. Joshua, do you mind sharing how you got 9?
Okay, so I was doing guess and check. I started with I started by 10, and I'll just say Alex made 10. Kyle made 5, so that's 15. And then Alex made 12. Kyle made 6, that's 18. And then Alex made 14, and Kyle made 7, that's 21. And Alex made 16, and Kyle made 8. And then Alex made just 18, and then Kyle made 9.
Awesome. Thank you, Joshua. That's a really good method. When in doubt, do guess and check. It takes a little bit of time, but after enough tries, you may get to the right answer. And Joshua, that is the correct answer. So thank you. Did anyone else get 9, but they did it a different way? I think we have 4 other students. Anyone do something slightly different? Okay, was anyone just completely confused by this problem? You don't know what it's asking. You don't know why they're making paper planes. You can message me privately in the chat, or you can just raise your hand and share what you think. Khadijah, okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being honest, Khadijah. All right, Morgan, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being honest. All right, all right. It's okay if you don't feel comfortable with these problems the first time around. These are meant to be really, really challenging. Okay. Now, my first tip when doing word problems is to read it over and over and over again. So I'm going to read it out loud to you, and maybe something will stand out this second time around. Alex and Kyle made 27 paper planes. Kyle made half as many as Alex. How many planes did Kyle make? Sometimes it helps to read things out loud. My second tip is to go through and highlight all of the key information that can give us tips or clues so we know what we should do. Would anyone like to share what they think some key information is? All right. Oh, Morgan and Khadijah both said half as many. It's very, very important. You all are right. Half as many. I'm going to go in and I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to highlight it in yellow. And Nazia agrees as well. Okay, half as many. That is really, really important. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Is there any other key information that you think we should include or pay attention to? Anything else? Any numbers that stand out to you? All right, Morgan said they made 27 planes. Perfect. Together, they made 27. That is super important. Thank you, Morgan. Okay. So tip 1, read the problem over and over again. Tip 2, highlight the key information. Tip 3, this may sound a little weird because we're working on math, but draw a picture. So if you have a moment or if you have a piece of paper and pencil nearby, take some time to draw a picture or cartoon that could go with this word problem. And I'm going to do it as well. Don't laugh at my drawing, okay? Give me a moment. I'm going to start drawing something. All right, so I've got my drawing in progress. Everyone, take a minute. If you didn't get the answer the first time around, or you want to try a different method, try and draw a picture as well, or a little diagram, or a model like I did here. All right. So I drew something, it's kind of like a tape diagram, not exactly. Raise your hand or comment in the chat if you've heard of a tape diagram before. Okay, so Nazia's heard of a tape diagram before. Khadijah's heard of a tape diagram before. All right. So tape diagrams, we usually use them when we're working with kind of multiplying fractions or dividing by fractions. And we kind of have a fraction in the problem. Who can tell me where the fraction comes in? What sentence included a fraction? Nazia, what sentence included a fraction? And you can unmute yourself or type in the chat.
I didn't hear you. Could you repeat the question one more time?
Of course. So I used a tape diagram because this problem had a fraction in it. Which sentence included a fraction? The first sentence, the second sentence, or the third sentence?
The second sentence.
Yeah, the second sentence is where we learned there was a fraction in this problem. So I highlighted half as many, and you all told me that was key information. And I drew a fraction that represented half as many, 1/2. All right. Then at the bottom, I drew a little tape diagram right here that shows all together Alex and Kyle are going to make 27 planes. But for our fraction 1/2, or our ratio 1:2, Kyle will make 1 plane for every 2 planes Alex makes. So we know Alex's amount of planes will be double that of Kyle. So I need to think of all the number pairs. So kind of doing guess and check like Joshua. So I'm going to write out number pairs that add up to 27, where one number is twice as big as the other. So this is going to take me a little time. You can do it on your paper as well. I'm going to come over on the left-hand side of the screen and do it. All right, so we have 1. Let me make my font a little smaller. That's a little too small. Maybe 24. 1 plus 26 will work. 2 plus 25. 3 plus 24. 4 plus 23. 5 plus 22. 6 plus 21. 7 plus 20. 8 plus 19. And then 9 plus 18. We can keep going, but in the interest of time, I'll stop since we got to the answer. So this is a way, this combines the tape diagram and the guess and check method that Joshua recommended. I made out a list of all the number pairs or addition that will give us 27 as an answer. And double check, let me know if I wrote anything wrong. So there's a couple of different ways you can add up numbers to get 27. And my tape diagram showed me I needed to stop when I found a pair of numbers where 1 was twice as big as the other. 18 is twice as big as 9. All right. So this was a bit of a challenge problem, but we know Kyle made 9 planes, half as many as Alex. But don't let the problem overwhelm you. Read it a couple times, highlight the key information, draw a picture, and then use guess and check if you're not sure. All right. So I will stop there for our 5-minute break. Let me clear off these drawings real quick. Okay, so you can take this time to run to the restroom, grab something to drink, grab a snack, or just rest for a minute, and then we'll get started on the language arts part of today in 5 minutes. All right. Right, take about 1 more minute and then we will come together. All right, so we will go ahead and get started with the last part of today's session, language arts. Okay. Oops, give me 1 second. Let me zoom in and make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to give everyone a second to read the passage. And then you can type in the chat what you think the main idea of the passage is, option A or option B. All right, so I see we have a couple people who have responded. I think we may have read this one together before because it seems very familiar to me. I see Nazia said A, Khadija said option A, option 1. Morgan thinks it's option A. All right. I'll give Joshua a moment to respond. May not be back yet. We'll take a couple
Oh,
more.
what?
What do you think the main idea is? Option A or option B?
Wait. I I think it's the number. I don't know. I think it's number 1.
Is it number 1? All right, so everyone thinks number 1. I think it's number 1 as well. So I'm going to click it and let's see. Let me submit. Awesome, awesome. Okay, we'll do one more like this, and then we'll do a different type of passage. Yes, Joshua?
Wait. Can I get water real quick?
Yes. All right, Nazia shared her thoughts. Thank you. Okay. Morgan and Nazia agree with one another. We'll give Khadijah and Joshua more time.
Okay, I'm gonna read it now.
We see there's some disagreement now. Okay. I'll give everyone a little bit more time to keep reading and then we'll talk about the options together.
I think it's 1, but I'm not sure.
Thank you, Joshua. Okay, so that means that, let me double check. We have 2 people who think it's 1. I'm going to make a note. We have 2 people who think it's the first option. We have 2 people who think it's the second option. I'm not going to say what I think it is yet. Okay, so I see we all agree that it's not the second option. I don't think it's the second option either. But we're torn between the first and the second option. Would anyone like to volunteer and share why they picked their answer? You can raise your hand, come off mute, or type in the chat how you picked that answer. Anyone? I'll give you a few more seconds in case you're in the middle of typing. All right, so we got one person who shared. Ooh, so Nazia says the first option is not about the whole story. Great, great, great comment. So this question they asked us, what is the main idea? So the main idea is 1 or 2 sentences that best describe or best summarize the entire paragraph. Best summarizes the key details, which sometimes is more than one, that we learned in that paragraph. A main idea just won't be the most exciting or most interesting part of the paragraph, but it's the summary that tells you kind of the gist of everything that went on. All right, let's take a closer look at the first and the third option. You'll notice that the first option and the third option start off exactly the same. So you had to keep reading beyond the first part to see where the difference comes in. However, they differ in the last part, which in the first part, first option, it says plant and animal food sources both contain iron, which help red blood cells carry oxygen. Okay, helps red blood cells. We learned about that. In the last option, plant and animal food sources both contain iron, but the iron in animal foods is more accessible to the body. This key detail here helps red blood cells is right here. That's important to know. But the first option kind of ignores everything else that happens in the story. In the third option, plant and animal food sources both contain iron, but the iron in animal foods is more accessible to the body. That summarizes everything that happens from here to here to here to here and on and on and on. Okay. Half of the paragraph, this part right here, was discussing how plant and animal sources are different, specifically how animal sources are better. So I'm going to be the tiebreaker and go with this third option because the first option ignores most of what the paragraph is about. All right. Any questions or comments on that so far? Raise your hand if you learned something new in this passage. For example, you didn't know there was a difference between plant and animal iron, or that we actually needed iron to live. Did anyone learn something new from that passage? Morgan learned something new. I learned something new, so this is really cool for me to learn, to read. All right. Okay. So we got about 2 minutes left. I'm gonna stop sharing that screen right there. And wonderful job on it. You all did what? Really, really good on that passage. Sometimes identifying the main idea can be a little tricky. Okay. So we got about 2 minutes left. All right, and this is an opportunity for you all to share anything that you learned in school last week, anything that you found confusing, and maybe I can share some tips or some resources that can help you. And if you are all good, you can comment, I'm all good, or just leave the chat. But thank you so much to Joshua, Khadijah, Nazia, and Morgan for joining us today. All right, Khadijah's all good. Thank you, Khadijah. You are free to go. Have a great day. Great day at school tomorrow. Bye, Joshua. Have a great day at school. Morgan, I hope you have a great day at school tomorrow. Some of you all have spring break already. And Nazia, thank you so much for coming. Thank you all. Hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you at our next session. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Bye, y'all.